Wow, what a score. Fantastic work, Douglas. Now, there are a lot of things where I think you might have left some things out by accident, or, you may already be thinking as you have, like, listened through that, you might have thought, oh no, there was like some, there, I don't know why there was a rest in that bar or something like that. And that's okay, just because the overall power of the scoring is just really, fantastic. It's just so well done. Is so well thought out. There just needs to be some proofreading and some craft applied here and there and so on. But it's just really a great effort. So, and I like the fact that you are thinking that that you are considering it as a copyrighted work. And you seriously, just to add to my what is now becoming a constant stream of encouragements to see if there's any way to get this performed once you have it sort of knocked into shape, right? So there's still a bit of editing that I think you need to do, but it's not a huge amount, but it is definitely something that I think will make it a stronger score. All right, so starting off here, we've got very simple viola plus harp, and then clarinets. So I would really strongly suggest that you not leave it up to the harp to state this E in the harmony, right? To not be the only instrument that plays that E. Because I don't feel that pianissimo violas plus harp and then, just the single E being played by harp is quite enough to really fill in the harmony underneath this clarinet. Now, even though it says solo, and we always, of course, presume that the soloist is the first clarinetist or, the first player, that is not a given, right? There is no there is no default really about the word solo necessarily meaning the first player. I mean, you can assume it can be an assumption, but it isn't a real thing in scoring. So you have to really say one period space solo, right? To really make it clear that you mean the first player here. Now, looking at this passage as it keeps going, despite the fact that you do like split up some of the pianistic slurring that occurs in other parts of the piece, right here, I feel like you just drop that big old slur on this, right? And you are not thinking about the fact that the second player has got to come in here, not having had, right here, you're not marking any start to a slur for them, nor are you marking any kind of start to their, like, indication of what their dynamic is here, right? So you're, in essence, you're leaving it up to the copyist to, like, throw in another slur in there, and, and still just, you have this one slurring thing and another thing coming in on a slur and so on. And it's just a little not quite thought out in terms of like the logistics, right? So if you have a second voice here, like just basically split these up. Here I'm going to do a little bit of Sibelius stuff. Okay, so pick out the lower voice and then get my keypad and then turn it into second voice, right? And then, right? So that is what you mean, right? Now, you would not need to write the word a2 right here, right? If anything, if you meant, like, a2 should only be used when two instruments are sharing a single voice, right? So if this is what you meant, then obviously all these things that I just did not need to happen, right? So if this a2 mark was right here, right, then this makes perfect sense, right? Because the second voice instrument will just continue on slurring, right? But it is not put there; it's put over here, right? So only use a2, a due when you really intend that two instruments are sharing the same single voice, right? Okay, and two wind or brass instruments, and sometimes harps if you have like triple, quadruple, double harps. And sometimes that is a way you can use the a due, a2 sign. Okay, so here I thought this was really original. The way that you start playing playing a harmonized version of the melody. I thought that just knocked me out. That was really really nice, and the way it combines across the whole section, the whole or most of the wind section, and just bringing in these other elements, really soft, balanced horns, right? So right here, pianissimo, I would say like this will sort of work because everybody's playing extremely softly. But look, if these guys are playing piano, I think that the strings should be playing piano at this point, right? And then the horns will really blend into them to sort of create a nice unified texture, right? As opposed to this, where it, essentially speaking, the horns will actually be a more prominent element than the strings, the way that you got it scored. I kind of prefer when one of the instruments is really just a tie and the other instrument is moving around rather than the having all these instruments be like in one voice as intervals. I kind of prefer this kind of scoring and then just change this to second voice as well. All right, and then just give us a little bit more space here. See, so that is way clearer. And it's just really, it's really easy for the copyist and the conductor and the score reader to read that one voice is continuous and the other one is moving around. Okay, and then this ding. So here I kind of felt that it was a little too sudden, right? Ding, you know what I mean? It made this feel like a throwaway because we went right into the downbeat so quickly. It just felt like, just like somebody just sort of flicking off a few droplets of water off of their fingertips right here, as opposed to just like more like a star coming out on after dusk, right? Which is kind of the just sort of that little sort of the way that some of these things probably should be. So that's up to the conductor, of course. They probably would conduct it better than the mock-up would do, but just a kind of a suggestion that it's okay to like throw in fermatas and other kinds of things in these challenges and to kind of try to proportion, almost as if you are conducting the music yourself in setting the exact tempo here and there. All right, and now going on. So we're developing the melody. Okay, so I'm sorry if people are getting tired of me pointing this out, but the melody is actually D sharp, C sharp, right? Da 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 da. The little F sharp on top is actually is a harmony above the melody, above this little melodic note right in there. Okay, and I mean it's okay that it's okay to like ignore that, except for the fact that giving the harp the responsibility of stating such an important part of the music is probably not going to work out, right? So here, you've got trumpet plus harp, which is an extremely difficult combination, and it's also a situation where the balance is really not being worked out, right? Trumpet is much, much louder than harp. I've actually heard quite successful combination, like a duo of harp and trombone, of all things. And you would think that the loudest instrument in the orchestra and the softest instrument in the orchestra would not make a very good duo, but actually they sound terrific together. I've also heard trumpet and viola duos. There's a trumpet and viola duo that are up in Auckland. So it is possible to match trumpet with another instrument, and the texture here is incredibly light, so that's fair enough. But I think that it's sufficient to mark the trumpet piano and the harp mezzo forte, right? So try that out, like in your mock-up. Just change the dynamics there, and I think that with piano, in your harp scoring, you get like a much nobler sound rather than mezzo piano, which is a sort of a grayish, indeterminate. It's just really not committing to a particular, either restraint or to strength, right? So, just take it down to a beautiful, cool, single statement there in, the darkness, right? The golden light in the darkness. And here, the harp should be scored much louder, right? So mezzo forte to piano is the proper balance here. And then these other elements are fine. Okay, and now we've got wind section, bump, 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 bum, like all the standard winds playing in harmonies. And this is nice, but you know what? Do you really want dun, 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 dun? You really want that F sharp way up there? Or do you want dun, 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 dun? Right? So I just feel this takes away from the direction of the flow of the music when you just throw in this little piccolo note up here, right? I mean, it's not wrong or anything. It's just, it is the meaning of the phrase coming through. But this is all really cool, and then the little answer just dropping down to the lower winds. Dun, 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 dun. Now, this is really, really thick. Right, muted. Bum, 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 bum. It's really nice to throw in that muted color in there, even in bass. Like, people sometimes forget that double basses have the ability to mute, and actually they sound quite nice muted. And some basses feel like, well, I kind of don't need to mute because, basses already kind of almost have a muted sound, and it's really, bassist subtlety of nuance is just enormous, right? So sometimes just mutes are not even considered for basses, but it's nice to see some scored in here. Okay. Then this is really cool. The combination of pizzicato, double bass, and bass clarinet. Boom, da 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 da. I thought that was really successful. Really nice touch there, Douglas. Okay, and that, like bassoons plus, so basically having all the double reeds play together. That's a really nice isolated combination of timbres. And then this was great too. Da 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 da. This is a really nice trading off of different colors and textures. I feel it's just really beautiful the way that it sort of like rises over the top and then cascades downwards in different colors. That's such a great idea. Horns plus strings. The only problem here is really balance. Like the way that you've got this scored, the horns are going to be louder than the strings, right? So please have a default rule, right? Where, unless you have a really good reason to, your brass is softer. When you have situations like this and textures where you really want things to combine in tone quality, that the brass are at least at the same dynamic or under the same dynamic as strings, especially if not winds, right? Because, the way that it is here, the horns will be louder than the strings. You don't want that, right? So I think it would be better, why not just have the winds and the strings be piano, right? Just diminuendo to piano here, piano starting off there in the flutes, piano in the strings, and have the horns be pianissimo, right? If not piano. All right, da 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 dum, and then we're going to hear it to muted trumpets, bum 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 bum. This is all very, very cool. Right. Now, my only question is, you are kind of realizing here by putting this staccato in here, which is supposed to go over to horns, that, mezzo staccato is part of the expression here. You've got it there, but I think you forgot it here, right? So, if you, in this case, if you have legato trombones and mezzo staccato clarinets and horns, I think that the trombones will start distracting too much with, the continuity of their timbre continuing on after the other instruments have released is going to be distracting, right? And then ending here should end on a staccato with the trombones, right? Or else, once again, the trombones will last longer than the other instruments and distract. And especially going into this part right here. Da 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 dum bum. And this is all nicely scored. It's fine. My only caution would be is like you just really completely not necessary to put the mezzo forte in there. You could just have the, just have this end up at a destination of forte, right? Yeah, and then da da. And I think with respect, a chisora here is a little too much of a space. I think that a pausa, like a la comma, like just putting in a little comma there, is probably better for the music. Da da ba da 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 da, right, going on into the next passage. So it's sort of like what they sometimes call placing the beat. Just imagine, the absolute perfect butler is picking something off the table and putting it up on a shelf, right? So that is, in fact, sometimes you will see the motion of the conductor's hand, almost as if they're doing that, just like lifting, lifting the end of the last beat of the bar, and then placing it down on the shelf, like giving a downbeat, right, on the next bar. So I think that is probably because it just feels too long in the mock-up, and I know that would be the same result in practice. So yeah, so think like a comma here rather than a chisora would be my recommendation. So this is all lovely, like these big gushing chords. Yeah, so really at this point, these are just big arpeggio. It's a chord, and certainly a harpist can play this. I always feel like if you're going to have big, huge chords like this, it's almost good to have like a second harpist, right? Although that's not going to help you get your piece played, believe me. But it's fine to score it like this. So the harpist will just do big rolls up over those chord shapes. Just so long as they aren't too intricate, then they're pretty easy to play. As far as the balance here is concerned, though, the harpist really shouldn't be marked mezzo piano. The harpist shouldn't be marked at the same dynamic level as the horns, ever, right? If you really want the harpist to stand out. So da da da. I really love the slurring in here. Da da, ba da da da, and so on. Now this is kind of strange. You have pizzicato with slurs, right? So I think that's just a simple error, right? Because that's, you don't mark phrase marks or slur marks over pizzicato because when you're as much as telling the player to sort of shift their finger under the, So here we've got something strange. Okay, so I think this is a copy paste error. There was a hidden A natural in the piano part that I had for people to use as a template. And it had an invisible A natural in it. And that was just because there was already an A natural stated in another voice in the same staff before that, right? So I was just abiding by the rules of the, of engraving, right? But you would want to, really make sure you go through all of this and do not because they'll play A sharp, like the live players, right? So yeah, that's something for you to fix if you're going to get this ready for a performance, right? So just really make sure. Yeah, same thing here. Make sure that you turn this back into A naturals. Okay, so let's just talk about how it's scored then. Da 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 da. Yeah, so mezzo forte here. And I would say mezzo forte, everybody, except for the horns, can stay at mezzo piano. That's how I would score it, because this is definitely going to come through. You do not need to have this be louder than the winds. It is going to play along with the winds, with everybody at mezzo forte. It's fine. Okay, and this pushing into a mezzo forte here, you don't need to do that, right? Because that goes against the arc of what's going on in the strings. Okay, maybe the horns can get louder. Okay, then so Yeah, so here Celesta is just following the slurring of the piano, and the same thing is happening here in the winds. And I mean, do you really need that kind of slurring? Da da, like the tonguing in the middle. See, here's another hidden. Um, here's another hidden. Oops, another hidden natural sign. Yeah, so just really watch out for that. Okay. Yeah, so just maybe think about maybe fixing the slurring, like just see where the emphasis is. Where do you want a note to be tongued, right? Where do you want the articulation of a tongued note, right? As opposed to just like everything being really oozy and melismatic. Okay, and then getting soft and going up there and so on, and just really watch out for high F sharp in piccolo being a very soft note, right? I don't know how. See, I don't know how soft you mean to go down here. Like, are you going down to piano, pianissimo, whatissimo, right? Where are you going to? You need to tell the players because mezzo forte, diminuendo, like, I mean, all they've got for the guide is a conductor. So that means that in rehearsal at home, they are not going to have clear instructions, right? So I think you're headed for piano here, right? So just write a piano on the end of these, right? Or piano here, piano there. Just let us know where you're going. Right, okay, and this is really lovely. Boom, da 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 dum. Now, here you have this beautiful cushion of brass in here. Oh, just so lovely, and it works so great. And you have this little kind of haunting background tremolo, right? So where's my cushion? Where'd that cushion go? Right? You can really hear it. Like when you're listening to the mock-up, like suddenly there's no, like the function in the score of harmony behind the melody at the beginning of each of these 4-bar phrases is gone. Right? So is that something that you sort of forgot to do or just sort of left out or, didn't get around to doing and then you sent me the score without listening to the mock-up? I'm hoping that was the situation because there's nothing stopping you from continuing on with that same strategy. You're only using one trombone player here. You could have the other two serve a harmonic role at softer dynamic, and you got your bass trombone, you still have your horns, they're not doing anything, right? And you could continue on with that same strategy, and you got your little floating down bits here, the clarinet. Be really careful about scoring, way up high there, that high B at mezzo forte and bassoon. I mean, it's possible, but it's just really an ugly note, right? What's wrong with making what's wrong with making this first voice here into like an English horn part, right? Then you get exactly the same basic idea, the same quality, but you're not really straining your first player, right? So just make this, like change the second voice here into the first voice, and then take this, shave this off and turn this into an English horn part, and then perfection, right? Okay. And I just really love this. It's just really, I mean, in a sense, this is very simply scored, right? And I love the little kind of ghost glissando. It didn't really come through in the playback, did it? And I don't know if you got this yet, but why don't you go to Sibelius.com and get this plugin called Harp Gliss, okay? And basically, with this one, you can just basically pick 2 notes, right? And then we go to our harp gliss. And then you can tell Sibelius which pitches you want, right? And you can even like score it in, like you could score like a chord that is like pentatonic if you want to, right? Just there are several different pentatonic options with harp tuning. There's a tip about it in 100 More Orchestration Tips, right? Which is harp glissando tricks, right? So go check that out, Douglas, and apply that to this, all right? And then also apply the altered tuning right here, right? So what I would say is like just have this last one end with like just be 2 beats long, then have a rest, giving the harpist plenty of time to reset their pedals so that they can play a big old pentatonic roll right in here, or maybe hexatonic roll instead of like having all of the notes. Just check out that tip or the video that I made about it. All right, anybody can check out this tip without buying the book. If you're not ready to buy the book yet, just go check out. I think it's Harp Glissando Tricks or Harp Glissando Tips is on the Orchestration Online channel. Okay. And you know what? I mean, what's wrong with adding that going forwards, right? It's like you've got this beautiful strategy here, right? And, with little minor alterations, first you got your octave, viola, and cello, right? And cello playing pretty darn high, so it's like unison. It's actually not octaves, it's unison, excuse me. So you got this unison, and then you're continuing on and adding trombone, playing an octave below. Okay, and then the overtones do the trick of doubling. I almost feel, though, that if you're going to do this, that it would be, this would be at the point at which you would want to drop the cello to double the trombone, right? Or have the cellos play in octaves. That might be another way of doing it, right? So that you are covering the sound of the trombone, and the trombone doesn't have that kind of wheezy sound it kind of has a slight coarseness to the timbre when it's playing against very delicate textures like this one, right? Here, there's just one last issue about your texture before we turn the page, and that is that you've got these soft tremolos, and I feel that they just really disappear behind everything else, right? You've got sort of mezzo dynamics, mezzo forte, middle strings, and then this is just really, really soft. What if you started maybe back here, pianissimo, and then did crescendo to like piano, and then back down again, something like that, or what if just it was a little stronger, because I just don't feel that it is really coming through very well, and I don't think it'll come through very well in performance either. Okay. And now we've got our horn in there, and yeah, you are really pushing your cellos just incredibly high here up to that A. It's just really going to be just a very struggling sound, I feel. I mean, it's going to be just really on the edge, but I mean, it should be all right. What I would suggest is scoring this in treble clef as well, right? Even though it's not really going out of range, it wouldn't hurt to go to treble clef here in the viola. Just for 3 bars. Okay, and horn, bass clarinet. Yeah, it's all going to work fine. A little celesta, but like, where's the cushion, right? You've got all these players, they're not doing anything they could supply a cushion of. And then same thing here, right? Trumpet. And this is really, really cool. Like the little doubled cascade in harp and so on. Okay, and then, and this sort of gushing harp right in here. I really love this ending. It's so delicate, and I'm just wondering, did a bar get erased, or did you really intend for it to be just a complete pause here? So either way is cool. Like if you left something out and then you wanted the instruments to come back in softly, that's also very, very cool. Like that very original touch. Da 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 da. Harmony. So that's fine too. But I mean, it really does feel incredibly empty right there, but it's all right. maybe kind of, yeah. No, it's good. I mean, if that's what you want there, that's fine. That's totally fine. So yeah, so very cool score, as I was saying, Douglas, and just really hugely enjoyable, and just very welcome to have another score from you. It was great having you as a MOOC student, and to have had you like around supporting on Patreon for like for a few years, and as a part of the Orchestration Online community. And it just really means a lot to me to get another score from you, like this Orchestration Challenge entry. That just really makes everything really rewarding for me. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like two separate enjoyable feelings. One to have new people come in with talent and with drive and energy and everything else, whether they're total beginners or really experienced orchestrators. And then the other, of course, is just like the ongoing relationship, between me as a coach and people who are really making a difference to the community, just thanks to their efforts. Like, a lot of people are just thinking, oh yeah, they're contributing to your Patreon, why don't you shut up about it? Well, look, the thing about it is I would just like let it go if it weren't for the fact that like everybody who is watching these videos for the past 4 years, owes some thanks to these people like Douglas and the other contributors who have just been there forever, or have come and gone when they could afford it, but are still supporting on Patreon. It just, I'm not saying that their contribution is worth more or less, but it's just in real terms, those videos wouldn't be here without their help, right? So I really appreciate the contributions of all my Patreon members for keeping the channel on. Like, I actually had this one year where I think I released about 3 or 4 videos, and I just really kind of look back to that with slight horror. Just think that I let things go for that long without trying to bring more tips, more education, more useful content to thousands of composers out there, right? And when Patreon came along and these kind supporters helped out, it was just really made a huge difference. So thank you, Douglas, for being part of that. Thanks for your amazing entry, just really great ideas. And like I said, I mean, I hope that this score doesn't just end. The story of the score isn't just ended with this video, but that you can either take things from its scoring and put them in your own music, realize them in different ways, or that the score maybe finds a place on a stage someday, just as a reading or even as a performed piece. If there is anything that I said that would help you to polish up this score, then that is fantastic. So my gratitude to you, my gratitude to everybody out there watching, and I think that I've got it in me to do, once again, a 5th evaluation today, so I will be on to that now. See you then.